wonderful that we can have these conversations, have them candidly, and have them on a continuing basis, because I think the key point that Hyundai and NDTV are keen to showcase is that these conversations will carry on. It's not just about today. Well, we've got a very special guest on the program, a person who perhaps has many of the answers and solutions that we want to talk about, that we are looking at, the Union Minister for Housing and Urban Affairs, Hardeep Singh Puri. It gives us great pleasure to now invite Mr. Puri to deliver the keynote address.
Thank you very much, Vishnu. Thank you, NDTV. Let me start by conveying my warm greetings to many of my friends who are here today. I'm particularly pleased that this program is specially for you. And if I were to start recounting each of our associations, I think that will take a long time. We are looking at this issue particularly in the urban context. So let me start with defining what the urban context is in India today. Any context setting that we do in terms of our cities, we should start by acknowledging that you will have 400, 500, going up to even 600 million people living in urban spaces in the years to come. The second and perhaps more important point in the context setting which I want to do is that countries and societies can be measured in different ways. An easier empirical way of measuring how well you are doing would flow from your economic performance, the size of your GDP, your economic growth, etc. But I don't think the world has placed too much emphasis on that. I think countries and societies are assessed in terms of how humane they are, how sensitive they are to those segments of the population which require special attention. And I think that is the focus of our discussion, or what I'm going to say to you today. Let me start with the 9 years of the Modi government. I think in terms of the philosophical construct of the government, it comes from the point that the philosophy is from Antodaya se Sarvodaya. In English, that would be from the farthest first, which also, by the way, is the philosophy of the Sustainable Development Goals, which were adopted by the United Nations, or the Agenda 2030 as it is called. That Agenda 2030 started later, but I think the Modi government started putting these philosophical coordinates in practice when the Prime Minister assumed responsibility in May 2014. What have we done in the cities? In the year 2016, model building bylaws were issued by the Town and Country Planning Organization under my ministry, which was then known as the Ministry of Urban Development. In Chapter 8, there is a detailed set of guidelines that city governments or urban local bodies and state governments have to comply with. Some states and urban local bodies are proactive, and you see changes happening on the ground, and gradually the local population too generally becomes more sensitive. Today, till now, as we speak, the provisions in the building bylaws for differently abled and elderly persons have been enacted by 28 states and 7 union territories. Therein lies the catch, but like being a state subject, the central government can issue a model law, as we did for RERA, but it is for the states to legislate and make compliance more stringent. I often say this in my public engagements, but I think this is a very good point which bears repetition here. The success of a government project really lies in the fact that it transcends from being a government project to a project of the people. And the Swachhta Andolan, or the sanitation campaign, I think is a classic case, because there it has become a Jan Andolan. Indore as a city turns up number one in the Swachhta Sarvekshan, or the sanitation survey we do year after year, year after year. This is a classic case where a project of the government has become a project of the people. I am giving this example of Swachhta because I can't think of any other government project which has met with this kind of success. Today, when we talk about Accessible India, which was launched in December 2015, making it a nationwide movement, Sugamya Bharat Abhiyan, making it easier for those of our citizens, younger and older, who have disabilities. Now, essentially, what have we done after 2014? We have strengthened the laws. The Right of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016 was enacted, making non-compliance of provisions punishable under the law. Together with enactments, a rigorous campaign was launched to ensure awareness among all sections of society. You might ask, is that enough? To which my answer would be, no, it is not enough. But then my response would be, this is what the government can do. The rest has to come from society, and that's where people like you, my friends, Mrs. Chona, civil society, all of you have to step forward. Why? For the simple reason that governmental action can be helpful, it is imperative, it is a must, but it has to be supplemented by what the corporate sector does. And I find many of my friends whom I meet in other events done by my friends in the corporate sector, they have to step forward. Then you have a genuine partnership between government, civil society, the corporate sector, and today I'm very happy that a foreign company is doing this here, because whether it is a Hyundai Motors or it is a Samsung or any other thing, their civic consciousness, that is what makes the difference. The NBCC and CPWD are two agencies under my ministry that ensure that all buildings constructed adhere to the norms which we have spelt out in the building bylaws scrupulously. Tenders which are floated need to specify all criteria, again, without exception. In the recent Kartavya Path that we have built, we have provided disabled-friendly toilets and ramps or tactiles for the visually impaired. The new Parliament building is fully accessible as per the guidelines and standards set for universal accessibility in India 2021. The features include, and I list a few, appropriate signages all over the building and outside, obstruction-free sidewalks and pathways, access ramps each at 3 public entrances, accessible toilets with grab bars, security access ways with clear width of 900 millimeters for wheelchairs, drinking water fountains at low heights with adequate knee clearance, lift with call buttons and braille indicators, grab rails in lift and staircases, designated accessible seating for wheelchair users in the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha chambers, wheelchair access provided in visitors' galleries. I just want to step back from the provisions for the disabled or those who have disabilities, and I want to go back to what was happening before 2014. And I think the cardinal point, which most of us don't realize, anyone would have found it difficult to navigate their way through the urban space if some fundamental changes had not been introduced in 2014. The urban space was subjected to neglect. I would even use the word criminal neglect before that. Wherever central agencies are involved, buildings, whether they are residential, accommodation or office building, all these are being constructed using also the latest construction technologies, ensuring compliance with the provisions of the Disability Act. I don't particularly have any control on what private sector construction does, but indirectly I do have a control. If I can ensure that the building bylaws in the urban local bodies incorporate the provisions which makes it easier for my friends on wheelchairs or with other disabilities or those who are visually impaired, then the rest will follow. Let me say very frankly, as the Minister for Housing and Urban Affairs, I am very happy to assume responsibility on this front. If there are things that still need to be done and have not been addressed, I think at a central level we would welcome those suggestions. Therefore, I exhort each one of you to play your part in pointing out both where there have been derelictions by individuals, or if you think that the government should have been more proactive, you must pursue your local bodies and galvanize them to action. And I find that every interaction with the Divyanjan, I have come away energized and rejuvenated by their spirit of courage and their thirst for excellence. And I think the sky is literally the limit. It is we who have limitations in our thinking and abilities, as I keep saying. So I want to compliment NDTV, Mr. Pogalia, and our sponsors for hosting this show. I'm particularly happy that you have gathered all these activists here today, and I think this is what will make this event stand out in terms of from the normal events that the rest of us have the privilege of participating in. Thank you very much.
I'd like to invite on the stage Mr. Unsu Kim, MD and CEO of Hyundai Motor India, Mr. Tarun Garg, CEO of Hyundai Motor India, to present a small memento to Mr. Puri. Thank you very much.